It started with a strange feeling, one of those nagging thoughts you can't quite explain. You know, that uneasy sense that something isn't right, but you push it aside, convincing yourself it's just paranoia. That's exactly what I did, until I found it. I was home alone, enjoying a quiet evening, when I noticed something off about the bookshelf in my living room. A small, blinking red light. It was so faint that I almost missed it. But once I saw it, I couldn't look away. My heart started pounding as I reached for it, fingers trembling. When I finally pulled the object free from the shelf, my stomach dropped. A tiny camera, neatly tucked between the books, pointing straight into my living room. For a moment, I just stood there, frozen, my mind racing with 1,000 questions. Who put this here? How long had it been recording? More importantly, why? I lived alone. No one else had a key to my place. Or at least, that's what I thought. I turned the device over in my hands, searching for anything that could tell me where it came from. There was no brand name, no markings, nothing. Just a tiny black lens staring back at me like an unblinking eye. That's when I noticed something even more disturbing. The camera was still warm. Someone had been here recently. Panic set in as I scanned the room, suddenly aware of how vulnerable I was. Had they been watching me this whole time? Were they still watching now? My pulse quickened as I took a shaky breath, gripping the tiny camera tighter. And then, from somewhere inside the house, I heard a sound, a soft click, like a door unlocking. My breath caught in my throat. That sound, so subtle yet so deliberate. A click, like the quiet, mechanical shift of a lock disengaging. I stood completely still, ears straining against the silence. Had I imagined it? Or was someone here? Right now? My grip tightened around the tiny camera. My mind raced through possibilities. Maybe it was just the old pipes settling, or the wind against the windows. But deep down, I knew better. That sound had come from inside the house. Slowly, I turned my head, scanning the room, my eyes darting from the hallway to the kitchen, searching for any sign of movement. The air felt heavier now, thick with something unspoken. Something unseen. I forced myself to move, step by step, careful not to make a sound. My phone was in the other room, on the kitchen counter. If I could just reach it, I could call someone, anyone. But as I moved toward the hallway, something else caught my attention. The front door. I had locked it earlier, I was sure of it. But now the deadbolt was turned the other way, unlocked. A chill ran down my spine. Someone had been inside. Maybe they still were. My mind flashed back to the past few weeks. The little things I had brushed off. Doors that seemed slightly ajar when I swore I had closed them. The misplaced objects I had chalked up to forgetfulness. The uneasy feeling of being watched, even when I was alone. Had this been happening all along? Had someone been inside my home, moving through my space, leaving behind only the smallest hints of their presence? I swallowed hard, a sick feeling twisting in my stomach. My home, the place that was supposed to be safe, suddenly felt like a trap. The walls seemed to close in, every shadow stretching longer, darker. My eyes flickered back to the tiny camera in my hand. It had been hidden so well, almost as if it was meant to go unnoticed. But why? Who would do this? And then a terrifying thought struck me. What if this wasn't the only one? My pulse hammered as I slowly looked around the room, my gaze landing on the air vent near the ceiling, the smoke detector above the doorway, the tiny gaps between furniture. How many more could be hidden? And worse, what had they seen? A cold realization settled over me. This wasn't just some random prank. Someone had been watching, studying my every move. But why? Were they a stranger, or was it someone I knew? My mind scrambled through possibilities, but no answer felt any less disturbing. I moved toward the nearest vent, heart pounding. reaching up with shaky hands. If there was one camera, there could be more. But before I could check, another sound stopped me in my tracks. A faint creak, like weight shifting on the floorboards. It wasn't coming from the hallway this time. It was coming from inside my bedroom. I froze. The sound was unmistakable, something shifting inside my bedroom. My pulse pounded in my ears, each beat heavy with dread. I wasn't alone. For a second, I debated running. The front door was right there, just a few steps away. I could be outside in seconds, but something held me in place. The need to know. The need to see who or what was inside. Moving slowly, I stepped toward the hallway, careful to avoid the floorboards I knew would creak. The door to my bedroom was slightly open, just enough to reveal a sliver of darkness beyond. I reached out with a trembling hand, fingertips brushing the wood, and pushed it open further. The hinges let out the faintest groan. The room was dimly lit, only the soft glow of my bedside lamp casting long shadows across the walls. My bed was unmade, the blankets slightly rumpled, exactly as I had left them. But then my eyes landed on something that hadn't been there before. My closet door. It was open just an inch. I knew for a fact I had closed it that morning. I always did. My breath hitched as I stared at the narrow gap, waiting, hoping it was just my imagination. But then, in the darkness, I saw it. A shape, motionless, hidden just beyond the crack of the door. Someone was inside. A cold wave of terror crashed over me. My fingers tightened around the tiny camera still clutched in my palm, the evidence of something far worse than I had ever imagined. I wanted to move, to run, to do anything but stand there. But before I could even take a step, the closet door began to open, inch by inch. The closet door crept open, slow and deliberate, as if whoever was inside wanted me to see them, wanted me to know they had been there all along. My legs refused to move. My breath caught in my throat. A shadow shifted in the darkness, and for a single heart-stopping moment, I saw the outline of a figure standing just beyond the doorframe. Then, without warning, the light in my room flickered and went out. Darkness swallowed everything. My chest tightened, my fingers clenching around the tiny camera. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I couldn't tell which way to go. The air felt heavier, thick with something unseen. I reached for my phone, but it was still in the kitchen. My only option was to move, fast. I took a shaky step back, trying to control my breathing, when something shifted again. A sound, low and almost imperceptible, like a whisper scraping against the silence. It came from right in front of me. My heart pounded as I reached out blindly, my hand colliding with the open closet door. Empty air. Nothing there. But that wasn't possible. I had seen someone. A shiver ran down my spine as another realization hit me. The cameras. If someone had been watching me, they would know my every move. They would know I had found the hidden lens. They would know I was standing here, frozen in the dark, too terrified to breathe. I forced myself to move, turning on my heel and rushing for the door. My hands fumbled for the knob, but the second my fingers wrapped around it, I stopped. The lock. It was turned the other way again. My blood ran cold. Someone had relocked it. My shaking fingers twisted the deadbolt, but before I could yank the door open, my bedroom light suddenly flickered back to life. The closet was wide open now, completely empty. No one was there. I swallowed hard, my breath coming in ragged gasps. But just as I began to back away, my phone buzzed from the kitchen. The sound made me jump, my nerves already frayed. But it wasn't just a random notification. It was a message. I turned slowly, forcing my legs to move, every instinct telling me I wasn't going to like what I saw. When I reached the counter, my phone screen was still glowing. A single text sat on the screen, sent from an unknown number. You found one. But did you find them all? My hands shook as I stared at the message. You found one. But did you find them all? The words sent a fresh wave of panic through me. Them? There were more cameras, more people. I spun around, my mind racing. How long had I been watched? How many hidden eyes had been tracking my every move? I needed to get out. Now, gripping my phone, I bolted for the front door, twisting the lock and yanking it open so hard it slammed against the wall. Cold night air rushed over me, but just as I stepped outside, I hesitated. If someone had gone to such lengths to monitor me, they wouldn't just let me leave. What if they were outside, waiting? I scanned the street. Empty. Too empty. The kind of stillness that didn't feel right. My neighbors' houses, usually glowing with warm lights, were dark. The street lamp at the corner flickered, casting eerie shadows across the pavement. I wasn't safe here either. A sound from inside made me spin back around. The creak of a floorboard. My pulse hammered as I slowly turned my gaze toward the hallway. My bedroom light was still on, casting a long shadow onto the floor. But something was different. The closet door, which had been wide open, was now shut again. I took a step back, and then my phone buzzed again. Another message. Leaving won't help. We've always been here. A sharp chill crawled up my spine. I didn't want to look, but I had to. My eyes traveled across the room, scanning every inch. That's when I saw it. The tiny BL. Dozens. They were hidden in places I had never thought to check. Inside the smoke detector, behind picture frames, embedded in the ceiling fan, watching me from every angle. A nausea-inducing horror settled deep in my gut. How long had this been happening? Who was behind it? My mind screamed at me to run, but something in me knew the truth. This wasn't just some random invasion. This was planned, and I was the target. Then, one last buzz. My shaking hands lifted the phone. The final message appeared. Smile. You're live. A soft click echoed behind me. I turned, but I never saw what was waiting. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed everything. The air felt heavier, pressing against me as I stood frozen in place. My breath was shallow, my pulse hammering in my ears. I wanted to move, to reach for anything that could help me, but my body wouldn't cooperate. Then, somewhere in the pitch-black silence, I heard it. A slow, deliberate creak. Not from the hallway, not from the bedroom, from right behind me. I spun around, heart pounding, but I couldn't see a thing. My phone's screen was the only source of light, its faint glow illuminating my trembling hands. I pressed my back against the wall, my mind racing. Someone was here. I wasn't alone. A low hum filled the room, an electronic sound, distant but growing louder. My phone vibrated again. Another message flashed on the screen. Show's over. Before I could process it, the lights flickered back on. The room looked exactly the same, untouched, as if nothing had ever happened. The closet was open again, but empty. The door was still ajar, no one was there. But something was different. The blinking red lights were gone. Every single one. The cameras, the messages, the presence that had been surrounding me. It had all vanished. I took a shaky step forward, feeling like I had just stepped out of a nightmare. My hands were still shaking as I grabbed my keys from the counter. I couldn't stay here. Not anymore. I had no answers. No explanations, but one thing was clear. I had been watched, studied, manipulated. As I stepped outside, the cold air hit me like a wake-up call. I turned back toward my house, my safe space that no longer felt safe. The windows stared back at me, empty and hollow. I had no idea who had been behind this or why they had suddenly stopped, but deep down I knew this wasn't over. I got into my car, locking the doors as I pulled away. The night stretched endlessly before me, but no matter how far I drove, I couldn't shake the feeling. The sense that eyes were still on me, that somewhere, someone was still watching. And then, just as I turned onto the main road, my phone vibrated one last time. I hesitated before looking. A single message. "See you soon."